Yo, what's up, Broncos country? This is Eddie with Colorado Sports Connection. I'm joined tonight with Mohamed and our special guest, Mike Klis. And we're going to go over some of the things that the Broncos have, some of the things coming out of Broncos country that have been going on the last couple of weeks. So, the first thing I wanted to touch on with you, Mike, was all the stuff with the Cortland Sutton talks. You know, he's wanting, came out a couple of weeks ago. He wants a $2 to $3 million raise to come back. Uh, what are your thoughts on that? And honestly, what have you heard about that?
Yeah, I try to report this story and not weigh in too much. I kind of I'm taking the I understand both sides approach. Cortland, you look at Cortland. He started in 2018, was a second round draft choice. And he's had since then Case Keenum, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock. I think he had Brandon Allen for a little bit. Then he in 2020 he got hurt, and when Jeff Driscoll, threw a ball right through his hands, he had a shoulder harness on, and then he came back in 2021. It was Teddy Bridgewater with Drew, and then Russell Wilson. I think he liked Russell Wilson a lot. They had a chemistry going. He had 10 touchdowns, which tied for fourth. And, when the Broncos, basically banished Russell Wilson from the team, I think, I think Cortland was in Russ's corner, as you can imagine, with the 10 touchdowns. And I think there was a lot of receivers last year on the Broncos roster who thought Russ only looked for Cortland. And so you can understand Cortland's affinity there. Also, I think, his teammate Jerry Jeudy got traded, goes to Cleveland, and he gets right away $19 million a year. And Cortland's sitting there at $13 million a year, and Cortland outperformed Jerry Jeudy for most of their time together. So I think Cortland felt like this is a good time to ask for more. And he's got 2 years left. In the beginning of the contract, I think, you can argue the team was overpaying for what Cortland was giving them. And then last year and a half, Cortland outperformed his contract. Darnell Mooney, who had 40 and 31 catches the last 2 years, he moved on, got $17 million a year. And so he only had $2 million of the $13 million guarantee. So with this being voluntary, he's not really losing much. He's gaining by eliminating the risk of injury, I guess you could say, by not being at OTAs. The team, on the other hand, Garrett Bowles is in camp. He's got 1 year and $16 million, none of it guaranteed until the season opener. And then so he would be first in line ahead of Cortland, who has 2 years left. Pat Surtain has got that 5th-year option, but a lot of times you do extensions when a prized rookie first-round pick is in his 4th year. Quinn Miners is a free agent after this year. He's going to command $20 million as a guard. I mean, the top 3-4 guards in the NFL are over $20 million a year now, and Miners, I think, is justified in thinking he's one of the top 5 guards in the NFL. So the Broncos are saying that they can't fix Cortland. If they give Cortland a couple of million more or adjust his contract, then Garrett Bowles and maybe Baron Browning, who's in the final year of his contract, and Quinn Miners are knocking on George Payton's door the next day saying they want a new deal. So it's tough for the Broncos to bow and give Cortland what he wants. On the other hand, Cortland, because it's voluntary and it's OTAs, he's got really little to lose, is staying away. Now, not this week, but the following week is the mandatory minicamp. And at that point, he can be fined. He gets fined each day a little bit more each of the 3 days. It adds up to about $100,000. And we'll see if he shows up for that or not. to me, if he's really wanting to make a statement here, he doesn't show up. He forsakes the 100,000, to show that he's serious about making a few million more. So they don't want Cortland and his representative, Jacob Presser, do not want anything to be touched with the 2025 portion of the contract. They just want this year adjusted. And so we'll see if the Broncos, if they do it. And if they don't, we'll see if Cortland shows up. In training camp, if he doesn't show up in training camp, then the fines really get quite steep and prohibitive. And so it's a waiting game right now. It's a little frustrating. You like him here because of Bo Nix being a rookie, having your number one receiver with him. But that's where it stands. Again, I understand where both sides are coming from. This is a case where both sides can be right, but it adds up to a wrong. And, the wrong is he's not there catching passes from Bo Nix, where I think it would help.
Yeah, I agree. It's just wild to me. I really hope they do give him the money. I mean, I agree with you, Klis. Like a lot of that stuff, Miners, Browning, like you said, Garrett Bowles. Like me personally, I think they really need to keep that offensive line together, no matter what, to protect their, investment at quarterback. But that's what the problem's going to be. Those guys are going to come knocking the next day. Like honestly, with all the receiver depth we have, as much as I'd hate to see it, I would be fine with Cortland Sutton walking to that point because I'd rather keep the offensive line together. What do you think, Mohamed?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I feel like go ahead and give it to him. I don't think he's asking for a lot of money. And I feel like Bo Nix could really use the help, especially in his first year. 2-3 million, it shouldn't be an issue. I think they should just go ahead and do it. Don't let this linger on for long. That's what I think.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, I have said this isn't really any concern till the mandatory mini camp, which is next week, and then it heightens. The situation elevates because that show if Cortland is willing to accept the $100,000 in fines, that means the Broncos are going to have to huddle and see if they have to change strategies to get Cortland into camp. And then it won't be settled until camp, one way or the other. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Cortland's not going to be traded, and he's not going to be released. That's not it. That's not the Broncos' plan. And so we'll see if Cortland comes back. $13 million. Maybe it is a couple million, a few million. I don't know what the answer is. If it's 2 million under what he should make, or 4 million under he should make, or that on the other hand, the Broncos could look at where he was with catches, which were not among the leaders, in yards. I think 770 yards. I mean, he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since he got the contract extension. I don't know. It's a tough one. It is a tough one for the Broncos to bend and give them money. That's the way it looks to me. Cortland is doing, I think, a fair thing in trying to press his point. You have to press your point in the NFL because, look, he'll be non-guaranteed next year too, and if he has a bad year, they'll cut him and he'll make nothing. So there's, the loyalty sometimes goes one way, but so he's got to try to do what he thinks is best for him. So see if it gets resolved.
Well, my next question about that, Mike, was, do you think that's maybe why Josh Reynolds was brought in? Because they thought maybe this could have been a problem later this offseason with Cortland Sutton, that maybe he might sit out, and they brought Reynolds in to maybe be that, good pass catcher that Bo Nix could rely on?
I don't think so. Josh Reynolds has always been a number 2, number 3 receiver, really more of a 3 than a 2. Last year he emerged after an injury where he was the number 2. I think he was more to replace Jerry Jeudy. They have Marvin Mims, who they can bring up, but Marvin Mims you got to remember they don't want to diminish his return skills. And it's hard to be a number 2 receiver and a full-time punt returner and a full-time kickoff returner if you're the number 2 receiver. I think Josh Reynolds was there to supplement Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims. See what happens with Tim Patrick. But, I think the Broncos are going forward hoping Tim Patrick's going to be fine. But being in Tim Patrick's case, it's one thing to be healthy. It's another thing to have those quick twitch reactions and sharp cuts. And, to break away from NFL cornerbacks who are now going to be 6 or 7 years younger than him, that's going to be a tough deal for Tim Patrick. I think he can do it, but I think it'll take him at least half the season before he can be Tim Patrick again. Question is, will he get the chance to get all his rhythm back? But yeah, those are the 3, and I think they wanted Josh Reynolds basically to replace Jerry Jeudy as a veteran number 2, a guy who's been there, done that, where Marvin Mims hasn't quite done it yet.
Yeah, that is true. I'll give you that. And also, I think, I like the Troy Franklin, draft pick that they got, bringing in someone that's familiar with Bo Nix to kind of help them out. I really, really do like that a lot. The next thing I wanted to ask you, Mike, was about
he would be the number 4. And remember this about Troy Franklin. He's 21 years old, just turned 21 in February. Marvin Mims was 21. That's awful young. To be breaking in the NFL and be successful. At 23, Troy Franklin can be, I think, a solid number 2. But I think it's going to be. I could be wrong about this, but I think it's going to take him a year or 2 before he really starts producing like a more of a every down threat or every series threat.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like Mims, he's going into year 2. I think he'll take a step forward this year.
Yeah.
Like you said, Franklin. I think it's probably gonna be a year. I'm just more of the depth perspective, and I think it's just something to have there for Bo Nix to be comfortable in the system. But the next thing I wanted to ask you about, Mike Klis, was the facility. I heard there was a lot of rumor or a lot of talk about it a couple weeks ago about how the Broncos are going to have training camp, and after that, they're going to start work on a new facility. Is there anything you could tell us about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, they kind of put off the start just to get the fans into training camp this year, because otherwise a big part of the project is that where the berm is now. Yeah, they're going to flatten that, and then they're going to tear down, from what I understand, the building where they're at now, and build the new building. The headquarters are going to go where the berm is now, if you can picture that. And then they're going to rebuild a berm on the other side where the building is. So they got a lot to do, and they're going to do it in 2 years' time. And it's going to be in stages. You don't want to upset the players too much. I think they'll. I'm hearing that the media will be displaced and put into trailers and stuff like that. But who cares about the media, right? So
that's what it seems like.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know how they're going to do it. It's going to be in stages, obviously, but it's a massive project. It's going to stay on the same plot of land. They're not moving it. It's still the Dove Valley neighborhood campus, however you want to do it. But A is going to B and B is going to A, and it's going to be interesting to see how Chip Conway, the operations director, and how the Broncos pull that off.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Mike. Right where that I know where you're talking about with all that stuff, because I work right over there, and I went over there last year for training camp. So it's gonna be really cool to watch them, actually tear that down while I'm at work one day. And what do you think, Mohamed, about the new training facility upgrades?
Hey, it's very exciting. We do have rich owners, and they're spending the money wisely. They're trying to do everything they can for the Broncos.
There's no doubt Walton Penner has put in the resources in every aspect. And and then the next stage, we'll see. It's still a couple of years down the road before they make a decision, I think, is the whole new stadium. Or, are they going to build a new stadium? Which right now I'd put a nickel on, a new stadium in 2031. I may lose that bet, but because they have put a lot of money into the current stadium, as far as upgrades. So why put all this money into the current stadium if you're going to not use it in 7 years? So, but it just seems to be the way this Walton Penner group is operating. First class, but they're going to want their own state-of-the-art new stadium. But there's 4 pillars to a successful football franchise in the NFL. Ownership is one, and I'm not sure it's important, but I'm not sure it's the most important. Head coach, quarterback, and general manager are the other 3 that you got to have. The Penners are moving in the right direction toward, they hired Sean Payton. I think they hired a good coach. Okay. Sean Payton hired Bo Nix as his quarterback. We'll see. It's not Russell Wilson. They went on Russell Wilson. And George Payton, I know a lot of people give him guff because of the Russell Wilson trade. But, he works well with Sean. And that mistake it hadn't been rectified because they're still eating a lot of cap space. It's going to hurt them on the payroll this year and next. But it does seem like they tore it down a little bit with the idea of building it back up the right way. I think maybe I don't know. It remains to be seen, but it's possible they're making the right steps right now, even if it means taking a step back.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that was one of my key things, man. Like I've always said, like you have to have a good, solid group of owners or an owner that is willing to spend money, a GM that can find talent, a head coach that can put it all together, and a quarterback that can run the system. That's always been my saying, because like if you don't have those in today's NFL, like you ain't going to be successful at all. And I like the owners that throwing the money around, like upgrading everything, doing whatever they can to make this team better, not just coming in here and being a pretty face. I like George Payton's draft picks. Personally, I don't like his free agency acquisitions. Sean Payton, I was, big on that. Like I was really wanting him, either him or Jim Harbaugh were my 2, but Sean Payton was my main one. And then Bo Nix, like I was ecstatic. Like I was on this very channel, like screaming like a girl whenever, we drafted him, because that's who I wanted. Because I really do think he fits the Sean Payton system.
Why is that? Why did you like Bo Nix? Because he was the 6th quarterback taken in the first round.
Me personally, I liked him because of his poise in the pocket. I mean, I know they said in OTAs and rookie minicamp his footwork was a little off, but that's something that can be cleaned up. But his intangibles are there, and his arm strength. Like I watched the clips of him throwing at OTAs. He's got the arm strength. And the fact that he's more mature than most guys, like he's married, he has children, he's ready to take that step into the NFL. And I think he's going to be more mature than most of these young guys in my eyes.
Yeah. I think he's more NFL ready than, a Drake May, or more NFL ready than JJ McCarthy. Michael Penix and Jaden Daniels are right there because they played a ton too. They were 5-6 year guys in college. Still don't understand what Atlanta was thinking there when they took Penix. But
I don't think anybody understand what they were doing.
Yeah, but we'll see. I agree with you on Nix. The poise, he's got it. I've been impressed with his accuracy, and just the way he handles himself. And that goes to the maturity and the poise that you were talking about. He's not a too cool for school guy, but he's a confident guy. And being 24 and not 21, I look back to what that difference was for me, 24 to 21. It was large. And I think he's okay. He may still struggle as a rookie, as all rookies are, just because of the speed of the game. He's adjustment, but I think he will. I think he'll perform better than most as a rookie this year from that class.
I certainly think so myself. Like, he's older, and that brings us into our next topic is Bo Nix. What was your initial reaction to the Broncos drafting Bo Nix? Because mine, like I said, was excitement. Like, that's my guy.
Yeah, it was funny when when the Broncos first wound up with number 12 and all the quarterbacks came out of it, and I wasn't big on him because he had played so much college. He was older. He was, I come from a baseball background where if you're 24 and breaking in as a rookie, you're almost a suspect more than a prospect. And I think the cutoff line is right there at 24. 25 is old. It's changed quite a bit, but they break in a little later now. And of course, with COVID, and given an extra year of eligibility, and with the transfer portals, everyone transferring now, quite a few of these draftable guys are older. Devon Avele, the receiver in the 7th round, the Broncos got 26 years old. That's astonishing to me. But they are getting older as they come into the NFL. Really, what I settled on is it didn't matter what I thought, or with all due respect, you thought, or anyone thought. All that mattered was, I thought Russ was having a pretty good year last year, but Sean Payton didn't like him, and so it didn't work. Sean Payton's the one that's got to like his quarterback, and he likes Bo Nix, and he's going to make it work with Bo Nix. He's going to train him. He's going to give him all his training, all his coaching, all his teaching and instructing, and he's going to make Bo Nix a good quarterback. He's invested in him. Sean Payton is invested in Bo Nix, where he wasn't invested in Russell Wilson. And so because of that, I think Bo Nix is the right choice. I mean, J.J. McCarthy, I know there were a lot of rumors early that he liked J.J. McCarthy, and I think at first he did. But after going to both pro days and seeing more film, it was Bo Nix that he fell for. And he sees quality in Bo Nix that he can make into a real good quarterback, a winning quarterback. And believes he'll never say this out loud for a couple of years, but believes can take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the AFC West. And we'll see. That's a tall order. No one's done it yet since Mahomes has gotten going. But that's the difficulty here is Harbaugh and Herbert with the Chargers and Mahomes and Andy Reid with the Chiefs. This AFC West, Sean Payton and Bo Nix, I mean, they have to be really good to break even. That's the tall order that they have here. So see if they can break even with those two other teams in the AFC West. Oh, by the way, they've lost 8 in a row to the Raiders. So they got to work out for them.
Don't remind me of that. Like that's one streak I hope ends this year is that Raiders streak.
Yeah, me too.
Going back to what you said about the Chiefs, like, yeah, I understand we got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, which that team to me is – I know a lot of Bronco fans, like I've told Mohamed before, hate the Raiders. I'm a Chiefs hater all the way through and through because I grew up in Missouri as a Broncos fan. So I really hope they break that Raiders streak. Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers, like I agree with you, Mike. Like they really, really, need to keep up with them. They need to, keep beating the Chiefs, honestly, to take this division. And I believe Bo Nix with Sean Payton will be a good combination. I think they will win a lot. I think they will take on the Chiefs, and I think they will take on the Chargers. As far as the Russell Wilson stuff from last year, I agree with you somewhat that he played well, but a lot of the stuff that I seen last year from him, just the eye test, like every single time he had the ball, he'd bail out. I always tensed up. I'm just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is he going to fumble? Is he going to get sacked. Like, I understand why Sean Payton moved on from Russell Wilson. Like, I completely understand, even with the numbers that
he did well in the fourth quarter when the game was lost, and he kind of went off script and did his own thing. That's where Russ was pretty good. And he pulled out, like the New England game. He was awful in the New England game for 2 quarters. The second and third quarter was just awful. And then in the fourth quarter, he had some magic and he tied the game with 2 8-point touchdowns. And he really had some magic that way. And that is, to me, that's what you acquired. Russ was the same in Seattle. He wasn't always pretty during the game, but he threw the ball deep well, and he had some fourth quarter. He really competed. I mean, he is a competitor. But he's a flawed quarterback, and the flaws didn't mesh with what Sean Payton wanted from his offense and wanted from his quarterback. So, yeah, you can tell what Sean Payton wants in a quarterback, and you can tell that Russell Wilson ain't it. And so they moved on, and we'll see what Russ does with the Steelers. With the Steelers here at Empower Field, that's certainly going to be an interesting game. But I think from what I've seen in camp, Bo Nix looks like he'll be ready to hang with him. I mean, I think Bo looks pretty good. I know there's been mixed reports out there, but I think he's looked pretty good. And the fact that this is OTAs, I just think he's way ahead of where I thought he would be. I thought he'd be struggling more in OTAs, and he really hasn't. It looks like he's playing well.
That's what I heard. I heard he's like pretty much right there with Jared Stidham, a guy that's been in the system for a year. So if that's the case, then I have no problem saying that Bo Nix will be the starter week 1. I think by the time the season starts, he will be better and he'll progress better by the start of the season. But yeah, Bo Nix was my big guy this year. I know a lot of earlier reports in the season before the draft, right around the Combine, he was compared to Drew Brees. Like, do you have anything to say about that? What were your thoughts on that when you heard that?
Well, Drew Brees, the reason why they're comparing him and that is because that's who Sean Payton had for 15 years in New Orleans. He's what? I don't know. How many yards does Drew Brees have? 60,000 yards. How many touchdowns? 500 plus touchdown passes. He was Sean Payton's quarterback. That's where I'm going to keep the comparison.
I hear you.
Let's see. It's we just got into June here.
So yeah, no, I agree. Sean Payton's quarterback, but I just like those earlier reports of that. I thought they were, very, very telling for some people. But the last thing I wanted to touch on with you, Mike, before you get out of here tonight was these injuries. I mean, I know Tim Patrick, he's coming off an Achilles from last year, another season-ending injury, back-to-back years, and the Estime injury. What are your thoughts, and can you give us anything on those?
On what was the second one you said?
Estime, the running back that we drafted this year.
Yeah, Estime had a knee scope. My photographer Brian Olson saw him limping off. I believe it was the left knee. Thought it might have been a quad at the time. The way he was acting turned out to be the knee. It was the plasma-rich platelets (PRP) procedure. Just a little bit of a scope to clean up, and they think he'll be ready by training camp. Drew Sanders, that was really unfortunate, blowing out the Achilles. I think a day or two into conditioning. Those things happen. Deshaun Hamilton had happened to away from the team workouts. Jawan James, that happened away from team workouts. A lot of times that happens with guys. And Drew Sanders, that's definitely unfortunate. Greg Dulcich at the end of last year reported yesterday he had foot surgery, and but he's coming back. I think he'll be back The way Sean Payton was talking, he should be back, if not this week, next week, for the mini camp, and they'll take it easy with him. I don't think they're really counting on Dulcich this year. They're bringing along Lucas Krull. Looks like he's going to fill that role, but if Dulcich, if he stays healthy and he's ready to go, they're not going to kick him to the curb. He's too talented for that. So see what happens there. Julius Thomas couldn't get on the field his first 2 years because of an ankle. And, everybody thought, he wasn't toughened through it. And it turned out he had to have this specific surgery to get his ankle tightened up. He wound up having a big year in 2013 and 14. So maybe that can happen to Dulcich. You never know. He is a talent. That's why you don't give up on talent. Yeah. But it has been frustrating, all the injuries, the hamstring, and then first day back last year, the foot. And so we'll see how he comes. But and they had some early camp injuries last year. Jonas Griffith went down early with an ACL. You had Patrick with the Achilles. Jerry Jeudy blew his hammy out in the joint practice. But after that, they were pretty clean. Their injuries. Bo Lowry, they've got a real good umbrella program here, and they're down on nutrition, and boy, they you can never figure it out. You're not going to stop injuries in football, but they've got so many highly qualified people there that they're doing everything they possibly can. I think the biggest thing is Sean Payton works them. I mean, the year before with Nathaniel Hackett, who took it easy in camp, Payton has tough camps, and he toughens these guys. He puts the layers on them. And so I think that's a big reason why they've been able to stay healthy, but they're not into that phase yet. They're not into that toughen them up yet. That comes during training camp.
Yeah, because I remember last year when Sean Payton first got in, they were talking about him, having the guys in the facility just constantly working out, just getting in there, doing conditioning, continuously working out. That was pretty much what they did early in the season, in the off season last year, which I think it helped a lot, to prevent injuries. But before we let you go tonight, Mike, I wanted to ask Mohamed, you got anything else you want to add tonight, Mohamed? Anything you want to talk about before Klis gets out of here?
Just go all the good information we're getting from Mike Klis, that.
Let's see. What's going on with Justin Simmons? Do you see? Honestly, I do, but time will tell because there's still a lot of good safeties out there.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday at the March for Peace that he does with Ray West and Nashara Ellerby, the teenagers from Montbello. And, he hadn't seemed frustrated. He's enjoyed time with his family. There's still a lot of uncertainty with him, but he's working out. He's staying in shape. I don't know if he's going to wait for an injury in training camp. When you're this far down the road, that's what a lot of veterans do, is try to wait till there's an injury in training camp. And then all of a sudden you got to pay, you got to pay a little closer to what the market is. But the Broncos released him in lieu of $14.5 million. My guess is he's looking at, a 1-5 deal. I'm just taking a shot there. Maybe it's 1-8. Maybe I don't know. But it's, obviously free agency's come and gone. It's tough to be out there right now. But Justin Simmons is too good a player to not go help somebody. And preferably, you would think he's never had played in a playoff game. He would like to go to a playoff contender.
As long as it's not the Chiefs or the Chargers, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up with one of those teams, just because the Broncos did fire him, I guess, so to speak. So,
God, that would make me sick to my stomach seeing him in red, white, or in Chargers colors. Ugh. But
Yeah.
Mike, we appreciate having you on tonight, man. We appreciate you making time, coming on, talking to us. It was a great show, and I really appreciate it.
You got it, guys. Good questions from both of you. Enjoyed it, and you guys have a great rest of your off season. We'll see you in training camp.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mike.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Take it easy, man. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So that was fun, man. I really enjoyed that. That was some. We got some good points in there. Got some good questions. Mike Klis, a great guy. I really like him. But with that being said, what do you think about it tonight, Mohamed?
It's amazing, man. I mean, all the knowledge, the insight that he has, about the Broncos, about what's going on with training camp, and what he said about Bo Nix and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Something.
Man, just like I said, man, I used to get all my news from him. Even still to this day, I still get all my news from him on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But we do have one more point that I wanted to touch on tonight before we get out of here, and that I wanted to get your opinions and thoughts on this too. The Broncos, crap, I forgot what it was. I'm having a brain fart here. Oh man, I'm really having a brain fart here. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, tonight was a great show. I think we got through a lot. I liked his, takes on Bo Nix, the training facility, all that. Oh, the next thing I wanted to bring up was the rumors about VJ on the hot seat. I know a guy I watch on YouTube. He was talking about it, talking about how VJ could be on the hot seat this year based off what last year, what happened there. Mm-hmm. Even with that 5-game win streak, I think they were saying something along the lines of, earlier in the season, they were running like cover 6, cover 4, we cover 2, a lot of that shell coverage defense, kind of like Vic Fangio runs with Vance Joseph. But more in that winning streak towards the end of the season, he was running more of a cover 3, a single high safety. What were your thoughts and opinions on that, Mohamed?
Well, Eddie, like after the Miami game when they put a 70 on us, like after that, I thought he was going to get fired, but Sean Payton didn't do it, and then things kind of got better. I don't see any reason for him to get fired this season unless something crazy happens, That's his guy. He picked him, so like I said, unless something crazy happens, maybe, but other than that, I don't see it. I mean, you could say the same about George Payton. He's still there. Things are working out. I don't see any issue.
No, I don't know. I think the only way Vance Joseph is honestly going to get fired this year is if, like, the defense just looks downright terrible. And I mean, even more worse than that Miami game. Mm-hmm. Like, because I was one of the people on here pounding the table for VJ to be fired after that 70-point loss to the Dolphins. I was. And then, but no, Sean Payton didn't do it. He stuck with him. He got through the rest of the season, and the defense actually improved. This year they added more pieces. Granted they lost Justin Simmons, as we talked about a little bit, big piece of that defense, but they did bring in Jones from the Dolphins. They got another pass rusher. They brought in Barton, but they lost, Josie Jewell. They brought in Myers from the Jets. So hopefully this defense, keeps continuing to step forward, because that defense last year, even whenever they were going on the 5-game win streak, was still, honestly, to me, took a step back from previous years. I mean, I'm not pinning that all on the Dolphins, but even just earlier in the season, later in the season when they needed to get stops. But at the same time, you could put that on the offense and Russell Wilson. The defense would come off the field, the offense would go out there, go 3 and out real quick, and the defense go back out there tired, and they would just give up points. So, but yeah, if VJ, if it's like last season, like worse, like that Dolphins game, then yeah, I see him walking. And I know one of the main guys that was complaining about that last year was Rex Ryan. He was really like pounding the table because he wanted to come to Denver and coach with Sean Payton. I don't know of any defensive guys that would be out there, but like I'd still be in favor. Like if that happened and Vance Joseph got fired, I'd still be in favor of bringing Rex Ryan in as the DC. Like I said, I don't know all the guys out there that are going to be out there next year looking for a job, but who would you take as DC? If you could pick anybody, out there.
I mean, Rex Ryan would be perfect, but my thing would be is the personalities. Him and Sean Payton. I don't know about that, man. Like, because he's a big rah-rah type of guy and he's very outspoken and stuff. I don't know if that's gonna work or not.
But he was the one talking about wanting to come to Denver.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to fight it. Like, if Ryan, like, they might butt heads sometimes, but if it makes the team better, I'm fine with it. If it makes the defense and the offense better, I'm fine with it, honestly.
Fangio, how about Fangio? I don't know if he's going to be available or not. Is he still with,
well, I know he went to the Eagles. He's the DC of the Eagles now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
I don't know. Like, that's another one. Like, I mean, he's not as big of a rah-rah guy as Rex Ryan, but once again, he was pretty much, he was like the whole thing when we hired Sean Payton. Who was Sean Payton's main guy he wanted as DC wherever he went? It was Vic Fangio.
Yeah.
And we actually interviewed Vic Fangio last year for the DC job. And I don't know if it was Sean Payton was like, nah, I'd rather have, Vance Joseph, or if it was Vic Fangio saying, hey, I'm going to go somewhere else, yeah, Jim Leo, yeah, I believe he's the new, I think he has something to do with like, the medical staff. I really don't know. I forgot who the guy is like the head of the medical staff, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like if Vic Fangio got a chance to come back to Denver under Sean Payton, I think he would. I mean, you still got PS2 here. You still got some good, solid pieces. And this defense under Fangio was amazing. Even his last year.
DC. Yeah.
Yeah, like I could totally see him coming back as DC and running this defense. And if he did with the pieces that we got now, I think this defense could be a top 10 defense. And then if Bo Nix turns out to be what we think he's going to be with Sean Payton, this could be a top 10 offense. We could be a deadly team. But like I said, that's only if VJ gets fired, which I don't know. Like, once we hit that Green Bay Packers game, let's see, Leonard, defensive backs coach, passing. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, defensive backs did good, but, once again, what helps the DBs out the most on defense? The pass rush. If pass rush gets home, it makes the DB's jobs a lot easier. And honestly, like, we don't know what we have in a pass rush yet. I mean, you drafted Ellis, you got Baron Browning, who's okay. Nick Benito, like we said before, hasn't taken that step forward. Jonathan Cooper, was good, but it's like, you need a good pass rush for the secondary to be good. But I don't know. After that 5-game win streak at the end of the season, I think Vance Joseph will probably stay. I think the defense is going to take a step forward this year under VJ, because like VJ now, he's just a DC. He ain't got to worry about the rest of the team. He can focus on the defense. And now that, they got a year together, in the system, VJ being here for a year, I think they'll do well. What do you think?
Absolutely. I honestly think the defense is going to be sneaky good. As I said before, I think the D line is going to see a big improvement. That's what I'm thinking, especially with the run, stopping the run and stuff. I think we're going to be a lot better, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The defensive line can really help stop the run, which will drastically help us. So, the defense can get off the field faster. It's just the offense has got to be able to, keep the ball, keep the chains moving, and don't go 3 and out a lot this year and tire that defense out. Also, like I said, maybe the defensive line, the pieces that we added this year, hopefully, they can get after the quarterback. Get after the quarterback, help the DBs out, and get after the passer, because that's another thing. Like we really need to get after the quarterback. And I think this year it's not going to be as much as last year. Like I said, beginning of the year, he started that too high shell look, cover 4, cover 6, cover 2 a lot. And then whenever they started going on the winning streak, it was more of a single high, cover 3, maybe cover 1, defense. And I'm pretty sure he ran a lot of man towards the end of the season, if I remember correctly. But if they can take that and improve upon it this year and just get better. And honestly, I don't care what they run, whether it's cover 6, cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4. I don't care. Whatever helps this team and whatever does well. But I think this year they're probably going to try to go more into that, cover 3. I think they're going to stay in that like they were at the end of last season, because a lot of teams now, like the Chiefs ain't the same team they were 5 years ago. Just bomb it over the top to Tyreek Hill. Patrick Mahomes, the way he wins now, it's kind of like what Tom Brady and Peyton Manning did. Just death by 1,000 paper cuts. Just boom, boom, hit these short passes over the middle. So, and running the ball, especially on Denver, like when you're playing that shell defense, cover 2, cover 4, it leaves the underneath game and the run game wide open.
Exactly.
So, I think the Broncos are going to play a lot more cover 3 this year, in my opinion, to help stop the run. I think they got a good enough secondary, and if they can get a good enough pass rush, that will help the secondary. Like I said, they can play a lot more cover 3 and cover up that run. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, all the stuff that they did on the offseason, the draft, I think we should see improvements, And with VJ, yes, I mean he's got a year under his belt, and getting comfortable, getting some players through. I think it's going to be better. I don't see us taking a step back. That's not something I'm anticipating.
Yeah, I agree. But with all that said, like I said, I don't think VJ. I don't think he's going to get fired this year. Honestly, yeah, I agree, Michael. Linebackers are mid. And I really hope that Griffith, he stays healthy, and I hope he becomes that. He could be maybe that inside linebacker that could be our coverage passer, because, like we talked about last week, we don't know where Drew Sanders is going to play. We honestly don't. Like, we don't know if he's going to be on the edge. We don't know if he's going to be over the middle. Like, he's better on the edge, but like we talked about last week, there's a lot of depth at the edge. You got Browning, Benito, Cooper. You got Ellis now. You got probably, I think Incoom's still here, like I said. I think Perkins is still here. I think they brought him back. Like, you got a lot of depth at the outside linebacker position. And the inside, you ain't got so much. You got Barton, Singleton, Griffith. Like, I maybe they put Sanders back at middle linebacker, and hopefully he pans out. But, if Griffith could step up and he could be that, inside linebacker 1, that'd be great. What do you think about the linebackers?
Yeah, that's definitely a weakness for us. We're very thin, and I mean for the past 8-9 years, like we haven't addressed that. Every draft, I'm like, come on, we need to do that. We need to get a middle linebacker, like a true middle linebacker that can actually, be in that position, because we're always getting killed right there, the tight ends, even the running backs. Maybe it'll get addressed next season or something, next draft. I don't know.
We need another Todd Davis.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we got the whole quarterback, situation resolved. I'm hoping, it's what it's looking like, and maybe next draft they can address that finally.
Well, that's one of the many things they're going to have to address, because, like Klis said, whenever he was on here, man, it's just Bowles is in the last year of his contract. You're either going to have to pay him or let him walk and get a new left tackle, because you got to protect Bo Nix's blind side. You got Cortland Sutton, as we know, he's already sitting out. He wants a new deal. Miners, you need to keep him. That's one guy I will advocate. First and foremost, needs to be paid is Quinn Miners. And there was another one, I can't remember who it was, but that offensive line, to me, that's the main thing. You got to keep that together. Bowles, if you can't find a left tackle, sign Bowles to at least another year deal, and maybe hopefully you can find something else in the draft next year or the year after, and same with Miners. Keep those guys together. Keep that unit together as much as you possibly can. Because if Bo Nix has got time, you want the receivers this year. You want as many receivers as possible, give him as many weapons to help him grow and develop into the NFL. But once he's grown and developed into the NFL, I would say you can go and, you don't have to get as elite weapons, but as long as you have a solid offensive line, your quarterback knows what he's doing, you're good. You can go out and get 3rd, 4th round receivers and be all right. I mean, Tom Brady did it. Peyton Manning did it. Patrick Mahomes did it. As long as you have a good offensive line, that quarterback is good enough to distribute the ball, you'll be fine. So, who's your biggest one you want to get paid this next offseason?
Miners. I mean, pay him, please. Don't let him walk. I mean, and I don't know what they're gonna do with Bowles. Like, do you keep him or do you draft somebody? I don't know. But yeah, I would say Miners. Um, yeah, that's my guy. What do you think?
Well, we heard Mike Klis say that, the Broncos, by the start of the year, they're not going to cut Sutton. They're not going to trade him. I mean, it's possible they could trade him in mid-season, if one of their receivers, like a Reynolds, Tim Patrick stays healthy, maybe Marvin Mims or Franklin, somebody steps up and takes that number one role. But what I'm thinking is you pay Miners, get him paid. He's the first one, like I said, get him paid, get him done. And you still got Bowles for this year. And at the end of next year, like, if you're going to let Bowles walk, like if they're like, hey, we're kind of teetering on the Bowles thing, we don't know if we want to pay him or not to bring him back another year, then let him walk and trade Sutton, get some picks, and then, maybe move around in the draft and get yourself a new tackle in the draft next year. Because honestly, if Bowles walks this offseason or next offseason, you have to, in the first round, in my opinion, get a left tackle. Because the most important thing is protecting Bo Nix, no matter what.
I agree 100%.
Especially on his blind side. You don't want him getting, just nailed in the back, because his left tackle can't block. And then you're down your, franchise guy. Like, that's why I'm thinking, offensive line, quarterback, those are the most important positions. Like, if Bo Nix develops into the guy we know he can be, what Sean Payton thinks he can be, you got to, keep the offensive line, keep the quarterback intact, keep all that together. And then receivers, they're not as important. Like, I mean, they are, but they're not as important as the quarterback and offensive line getting, protecting the quarterback. Because, like, we've seen it. This is kind of a terrible example, but the Bengals, like, they had all that star power, on the weapons, quarterback, but they had a terrible offensive line. And yeah, they made the Super Bowl, but they lost because, like, if they would have had an offensive line, Bengals win that Super Bowl, in my opinion. If they had someone to stop Aaron Donald, they would have won that Super Bowl very easily in my eye. So same with Patrick Mahomes. Like, I hate to say it, but maybe he beats Tom Brady in that Super Bowl if he had an offensive line. He had all the star power on the outside, but no offensive line to protect him. So offensive line is a big thing. But before we get out of here tonight, Mohamed, I do want to, get your opinion on, like, I didn't really get a chance to ask you this. What do you think about the training facility upgrades? I mean, we kind of talked about that. Mike Klis did a lot of talking, but I want to get your thoughts on that. What do you think?
And like I said, I mean, it's really exciting. And like I said, the owners are actually, we got rich, like the richest owners, right? They are doing everything in their part, for the facilities, for the players, for the Broncos, for the, city of Denver. I mean, they're doing all that. So let's hope the other stuff work out, as far as the players. I trust Sean Payton and stuff, but as far as the owners, they're really doing what they can to help out. It's all first class. And they got the money to do that. So
definitely. Well, one thing Mike Klis said, talking about the upgrades to the facility, he also talked about the stadium, how, they're putting all this money into it. But I know a few years back, they were talking about, getting a new stadium, building a new stadium out here. And I remember hearing about it. The reason why I remember hearing about it is because they were actually, I think this was last year, because I was living here in Denver whenever I heard them talk about it. They were talking about maybe moving a little farther southwest, which would be a little bit closer to me. Like, I'm southwest of Denver. Like, I'm only like 10 miles from the stadium. So, like, the way they were talking to where they were going to move it was going to be a little closer to my house. They were looking for land out this way to try to build it. But I also know they have at least another 10 years, I think it was, at like whenever the owners took over. So they probably got like 8 years left on the lease at the stadium. But I agree with Mike. Like, they're putting all this new stuff into it. They're upgrading the stadium. They put new turf in, or new grass in. I don't see them, moving anywhere. I think they're going to stay right where they're at. I like the location. It's like, it's not in downtown, but it's right next to there. But it's pretty accessible to get to the stadium, honestly. And I don't know, like, would I be excited if they moved closer to me? Heck yeah. Maybe, I could walk to the stadium. That'd be great. But What are your thoughts on that? Do you want a new stadium, or would you rather just keep the current one?
I would definitely want a new one. I'm kind of jealous of the Raiders stadium, to be honest with you. And if somebody can actually get us a new one, it'll be our honors. I mean, they got the money to do so, but what Mike Klis said makes sense. I mean, if you're planning to do that in the future, why would you be spending all this money, to get a new one, to make these upgrades? So yeah.
True, but at the same time, the Broncos, we know they don't care about spending money. I mean, think about the last game of the 2022 season.
Mm-hmm.
They had the grass in there for all season, and the last game of 2022, what'd they do? They put all new grass down in the stadium for one meaningless game of the season left.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
They also what was the other thing they did? They the Russell Wilson thing. You can even use that. Like any other owner would be like, I understand they probably gave Sean Payton the permission to get rid of him if he didn't work out, but it's like a lot of owners would be like, ooh, $85 million. No, I don't want to pay that to a guy that's not going to be on the roster. Bench him in the draft your guy, maybe, but don't cut him. So I don't think the owners of this team really care about what, I wouldn't say wasting money, but if they don't like something, they're going to change it. Whether if it's the stadium, the training facility, a player that they don't want, even if he costs you a buttload of money, I don't think that, I kind of agree with Mike Klis. Like, why would you do that? But these owners, to me, I don't think they care. If they want a new stadium, they're going to do it.
Yeah, money is not a problem for them.
No, they got that Walmart money. That's big money.
Literally, right?
So, but anyway, Mohamed, we've been going for almost an hour now. You got any other topics you want to touch on tonight before we get off here?
No, I was kind of excited to hear from Mike Klis about Bo Nix and how he's progressing, and that he think he's ready, and he's way ahead of schedule and stuff. I was happy to see that, because if he's saying that, I believe him. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Mike Klis is still one of the main guys I get my news from. Like, I know a lot of people like Mike Klis, or and some people like Benjamin Albright or others. But to me, Mike Klis is the guy. Like, he's been there for I don't know how many freaking years. Mm-hmm. He's been there since I've been watching the Broncos. And even whenever I was younger, living in Missouri, and you didn't have the internet, who was the main one reporting stuff? It was Klis. I love his takes. He's very smart. He's very knowledgeable. And hopefully one day we can have him on again.
Yes.
So,
it was really nice having him.
Yeah. It was really cool for him to come on to the show tonight. Really appreciated that. But anyway, that's all for us tonight, guys. We're going to go ahead and jump off of here. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe on this video, and hopefully we'll get some more guests here in the future. Mohamed, have a good night, man.
All right, take care.
Later.